Buenas tardes a todos. Muchísimas gracias por acompañarnos en el webinar titulado Menos es más, formulaciones sostenibles sin agua y alternativas a sostenibles de siliconas. Este webinar es por parte de Alzo, nuestra representada, y con nosotros se encuentran Michael Mosquera, Rob Schneider y Andrew Goldberg, quien va a ser quien nos va a dar la presentación el día de hoy. Andrew es el director técnico del Laboratorio de Aplicaciones de Alzo International. Es responsable del desarrollo de nuevas aplicaciones y de comprobar la eficacia de la amplia gama de ingredientes especiales de Alzo. Ha estado con Alzo desde enero del 2020 y anteriormente pasó 10 años en L'Oréal USA Research and Innovation, donde trabajó en el desarrollo y lanzamiento de nuevos productos para el cuidado de la piel y el sol. Andrew tiene un bachelor's degree y maestría en ciencias empresariales y ciencias en ingeniería química por parte de la Universidad de Rutgers y es miembro de la Society of Cosmetic Chemists y tiene varias patentes otorgadas internacionalmente. Con esto le damos una muy calurosa bienvenida a Andrew, que nos va a dar la presentación. Si tienen alguna duda, por favor, escríbanlas en el chat para que las vayamos contestando en el transcurso de la presentación. Andrew, thank you very much for joining us today. And well, the microphone is yours. Please go on with your presentation. We cannot hear you. The microphone is off.
Gracias, Diana. Buenos dias. So again, my name is Andrew Goldberg. I am Alzo's technical manager. And today we're going to talk about two exciting topics that we've recently rolled out. Our Less is More waterless formulations kit, as well as our silicone alternatives for more sustainable formulations. So I will jump right into the presentations. Okay, so today's first presentation is Less is More, which is introducing our line of waterless and sustainable formulations for skin care, hair care, face, and sun. So when we talk about less is more, there are a lot of sustainable benefits to using waterless formulations. In terms of less, of course, it's going to reduce your water footprint. You'll drastically reduce the amount of water in your formulations, especially when many shampoos and conditioners are 80 to 90% water. You can also reduce or eliminate preservatives, which is very beneficial because a lot of times they can be very sensitizing or irritating. A lot of preservatives have strict regulations depending on where you're launching your products. You can also reduce packaging size, which is important for reducing or eliminating plastic packaging, as well as reducing your shipping costs. So it's going to reduce your water footprint and can reduce your carbon footprint as well. And in terms of more, you can have more concentrated ingredients. The example before with 80 to 90% of shampoos are water. Now you can have an extremely high concentration of your conditioning and other active ingredients. You also have more sustainable packaging options. So instead of the traditional large plastic bottles or tubes, you can switch to something more sustainable, such as cardboard, which is much more recyclable, or even reusable containers like reusable aluminum tins. And if you do need plastic, you can drastically reduce your amount of plastic in your packaging. You can also save time and energy during production. So a lot of these formulations are either cold processable, so you don't have to heat up your batch, or they could be hot pours when you just have to heat your batch and not cool it down. Whereas a traditional lotion or cream, many times you'll have to heat it to greater than 70 degrees Celsius and then cool it all the way back down to room temperature. And then these formulations are more travel friendly. So especially if you have to put your sample, you have to bring your formulations on the go, or if you're taking an airplane, you're limited to what you can carry on. With waterless, especially solid products, you can oftentimes use the same product you're using at home. You can travel with it as well. So that's a little bit about our waterless formulations. We have 7 formulas we're going to talk about today. We have our Mango Butter Shampoo Bar, our Nequat DBS Conditioner Bar, our Natural Face and Hair Oil, a Natural Makeup Remover Oil, a Melting Makeup Remover Balm, our Stick of Butter Waterless Moisturizer, and Zinc Oxide Sunscreen Stick for SPF 30. So for each, we're going to talk a little bit about the formulation and then some of the ingredients that went into it. So our first formula is our Mango Butter Shampoo Bar. So again, instead of a large plastic bottle, it can come in this neat cardboard box. And you can mold it into any size shape you want. So this is an example of what it looks like. To make this formula, all you have to do is add everything to a beaker, heat everything to melt it and disperse, and then pour it into any mold you want. So we use a traditional silicone mold that a lot of times we use for ice cubes or candies. So really, it's very easy to formulate with. It doesn't involve any presses or anything that requires a lot of equipment. So it's really easy to work with. Look a little bit at the formulation. It has a high level of our Trivent Mango Butter, which is a really nice material for structuring and conditioning, as well as bihenyl alcohol to further give the bar a little bit more structure. And the other Alzo material in this formulation is our dermal SLLCl, which is sodium laurolactylate, which we will see a lot throughout this presentation. It's a really unique oil-soluble surfactant. So while most traditional cleansing surfactants are water-soluble, dermal SLLCl is oil-soluble. So we're going to see it throughout a lot of these formulations. When used in combination with traditional surfactants, such as the two surfactants we see here from Innospec, dermal SLLCl creates a really long-lasting and creamy lather. So it really makes a very nice lather in traditional surfactant systems such as shampoos, cleansing bars, face washes, etc. So it works very nicely in a lot of these formulations because, again, it is oil soluble, so it works well in waterless formulations. Of course, you can't have a shampoo bar without a conditioner bar. So our Nequat DBS conditioner bar, again, a really high level of Trivent Mango Butter. The primary structuring and conditioning ingredient in this formulation is our Nequat DBS, which is bihena-methyl-propyl ethyldimonium ethyl sulfate in sterile alcohol with a few other conditioning ingredients, which is a soft paste at room temperature or a soft wax at room temperature. So it provides a really nice structure and a really nice base for conditioner bars. And we also have 5% of our dermal MBDD, which is a 100% naturally derived and biodegradable polymer that's derived from rapeseed oil and mango butter, which is really effective for conditioning, hold, and shine in hair products. Our next material is our natural face and hair oil. So just a really versatile formulation that highlights several of our very lightweight and dry feeling esters. So dermal M5 is caprylic capric triglyceride. It's a very cost-effective and lightweight ester. Trivent OCG is tricaprylan, which is a slightly smaller slightly smaller molecule than dermal M5. So it's going to also be cost-effective, but give you just a little bit of a lighter and drier feel. And then Bean Tree is methylheptoisostearate, which we'll talk a lot about in our next presentation on silicone alternatives. But again, it is a really nice naturally derived biodegradable alternative to lightweight silicones such as 5 or 10 centistoke dimethicone. You see you have a very nice, clear, essentially colorless formulation, and it's very versatile. It could be used as a face or hair oil. It could be used in rinse off or hair products. It could be used as a face or body oil as well. And because it's so lightweight, it can even be suitable for oilier skin types. So next we take a few of the materials that we just talked about before and combine them again. So we have 2 of our lightweight esters plus dermal SLLCl in our natural makeup remover oil. So again, basically colorless and crystal clear. So again, we know that bean tree and Trivent OCG are very lightweight emollients, and dermal SLLCl is an oil-soluble surfactant. So when used in this formulation, it really improves the performance and the feel of this makeup oil. So the experiment below, we applied regular wear lipstick to a forearm. On the left is a few drops of just the 2 oils. On the right is a formulation with 15% SLLC. So the makeup remover was rubbed into the lipstick and then rinsed with water. And we see the formulation that contains 15% SLLC has much better rinse off, also leaves the skin feeling much cleaner and less oily. So a really nice ingredient both for aesthetics, but also for performance in makeup remover oils and balms. So which brings us to our melting makeup remover balm. So you can see very thick balm-like texture. It's hot poured into a jar. %% SLCl, again to improve the rinsability and skin feel of the formulation. The structuring agent is our Marix SF, which is di-C1215 alkyl fumarate, which is a really nice waxy ester that melts just above body temperature. So it gives you a really nice melting sensation, really pleasant aesthetics. And it also contains a high level of our dermal DGDIS, which is polyglycerol 2-diisostearate, which is another material we'll talk a little bit in the silicone alternative formulation. But this is a nice alternative to something like a thick 500 centistoke dimethicone. Nice application, but also has really nice compatibility with pigments. So it really helps break down the makeup in this makeup remover balm. And the formulation is structured with our Biomade BB, which is behenyl behenate, which is a naturally derived and biodegradable alternative to some of the synthetic or petroleum-derived materials like ozokerite wax or polyethylene wax. So a really nice natural and sustainable alternative to those. That Biomade BB is also used in our Stick of Butter waterless moisturizer. So we have it packaged in a nice oval tube. We're actually seeing a lot of advances in more sustainable packaging for sticks. We're seeing some stick components actually made of paper. Again, they're making a lot of progress in sustainability in stick packaging as well. But we see that this formulation is again structured with Biomade BB, which is that naturally derived polyethylene alternative that melts at around 72 degrees Celsius. Also used with Dermwax SB, which is sterile behenate, which is a naturally derived and vegan alternative to beeswax. And head tester SSS is sterile stearate, which is a really large molecule that's highly branched. So even though it is a solid at room temperature, it's very soft and really improves the creaminess and payoff of stick formulations. So either waterless moisturizers, sunscreen sticks, or lipsticks, it all works really nicely to improve the payoff. High level again of our Trivent mango butter, as well as a high level of dermal ML, which is myristoyl lactate, which is an ester that melts right around room temperature. It really improves the slip in application of the stick, but has a really nice, clean, and velvety skin finish. And finally, we have our zinc oxide sunscreen stick. Again, uses that blend of Biomade BB, Head Tester SSS, and Dermwex SB. The zinc oxide that we use is a non-nano surface treated zinc oxide. So again, same components for the stick. And the dispersing emollient we use for this formulation is LFAC I205, which is octyl dodecyl neopentanoate, which is a really nice emollient for both mineral and organic sunscreen formulations. When used with mineral sunscreens, it forms a really low viscosity, really nice feeling sunscreen dispersion, especially when you compare it to some of the traditional sunscreen emollients such as C1215 alkyl benzoate or butyl octyl salicylate. The LFAC I205 forms a much lower viscosity dispersion. That's going to really improve your aesthetics and reduce the whitening of your formulation, and can also potentially boost SPF. So this formulation is 58% naturally derived because the LFAC I205 is synthetic. But if you were looking for a formulation similar to this with a high degree of naturality, you could replace the LFAC with something like our bean tree to get the naturality above 95%. So that was it for our waterless formulations. If you have any questions or are interested in any samples, I'm sure you can reach out to your representative at Syntochem. Also, if you're ever interested in visiting Alzo's website or LinkedIn page, we do offer a lot of material on our Alzo website, and then we post on LinkedIn at least once a month to really update some of the formulation work and ingredient work that we've been doing. And I know Syntochem always does an excellent job of sharing our posts as well. So, are there any questions?
Thank you, Andrew. Si tienen alguna pregunta, por favor puedan irlas escribiendo en el chat. Well, I have a question regarding the amount of FPS that the ingredients can boost. What have you seen? What is the trend, or how much can the FPS be boosted by these ingredients?
So that's a good question. We're actually working on that as we speak, so we don't have any firm data showing SPF boosting, but we would expect, at least a 5 to 10% boost based on some of the testing we've seen in the past. Especially especially when you work with mineral sunscreens, so much of the SPF is driven by how uniform of a film you can generate, and then having LFAC I205 to really help with the spreadability and really improve the dispersion of the sunscreens. We definitely expect to see a boost in SPF from that.
Thank you. We have a question regarding the preservative used for these waterless formulas. Do you recommend any preservative? They can be used without preservative. What would be the recommendation?
So I think for preservatives, it depends a lot on the type of formula that you're using. So for instance, something like an oil formulation that comes in a dropper that's going to have minimal contact, you could almost definitely go preservative free. Something like the shampoo bar, which obviously you're going to be using in the shower and really contacting with your skin, your hair, and a lot of water. The interesting thing about dermal SLLCL is that we've seen really strong antimicrobial benefits when used at 10%. And I believe this formulation contains 25% SLLC. So it can actually definitely help to work as a co-preservative or even the primary preservative in your formulations.
Thank you. ¿Alguna otra duda que tengan en relación a estas formulaciones? And I have another question regarding the rigidity of the soap bar. What ingredient would you recommend to have a rigid or a soap bar that lasts longer?
Interesting. So we can go to that formulation. So for the shampoo bar, we were using behenyl alcohol. So that's one of the more rigid, higher melting point alcohols. You could certainly play around with the level of behenyl alcohol to get something that's got a little more structure and lasts longer. You could certainly incorporate some waxes as well, like the Biomade BB. I like the behenyl alcohol because it does provide a lot of structure, but also does help with the application. So it does melt and lather really nicely. Whereas something like a wax may reduce the amount of lather and how difficult it is to remove. But if you are trying to make the shampoo bar last longer, something like our Biomade BB would work really nicely to provide structure to the shampoo bar.
Thank you, Andrew. Do we have any more questions? ¿Hay alguna pregunta adicional? También, si quieren abrir sus micrófonos, sin ningún problema pueden hacerlo. Vamos a dar unos minutillos, unos momentos para si alguien más tiene alguna otra duda. Si no hay dudas adicionales, le damos las gracias a Andrew por darnos esta presentación. Thank you, Andrew, very much for the information you presented to us. Will you be sharing this information with our customers?
Absolutely. Yeah, I will share these slides as well as the silicone alternative slides, which we'll talk about in a second too.
Okay, perfect. So let's continue.
Great. So presentation numero dos is our sustainable silicone alternatives. So a little background about Alzo. Probably should have done this slide earlier in the presentation, but that's okay. So we were founded in 1975 and we're still family owned. We do all of our development and manufacturing in our facilities in Sayreville, New Jersey, which is a little more than a half hour outside of New York City on the East Coast. We hold over 50 patents, as well as numerous industry publications. We have several certifications, including ISO 9001 for our quality management systems, and RSPO for sustainably sourced mass balanced palm oil derivatives. And we supply over 300 unique ingredients to the cosmetic industry, many of which are naturally derived. A majority of our portfolio, and mostly what we've been talking about today, are our emollient and functional esters. We also offer a range of urethane-based polymers for thickening, film forming, shine, etc. And some of those are actually naturally derived. We have several cationic conditioners for both hair and skincare. And then our silicone elastomers, which are our new elastic line. But today we're talking about why we should go silicone free. So the biggest reason is obviously there are a lot of regulations and bans either in place or in progress around the world. Specifically, cyclomethacones are currently banned in rinse-off products in Europe, and we expect a ban on leave-on products for cyclomethacones in Europe to follow shortly. And that's due to their negative environmental impact. So cyclomethacones are PBTs, which are persistent bioaccumulative toxic substances. So as they get rinsed off into wastewater, they stay in the environment for a long period of time, and they are hazardous to aquatic life. And while other silicones, such as dimethicone, are not PBTs, they are also not readily biodegradable. And there's a lot of negative consumer perception around silicones. So we see that silicone-free is a very common claim, especially in hair care products. And of course, consumers are always striving for more sustainable and naturally derived products. So what do we look for in silicone alternatives? So at Alzo, we've taken an apps approach. So we look at aesthetics, physical attributes, performance, and sustainability. Obviously, so much of silicones is their really pleasant aesthetics for both makeups, for all makeup, skin, and hair products. So some of the things we looked at for silicone alternatives are the application and absorption, as well as how those products are going to feel on the skin, hair, and lips, as well as how well they work with color products, especially their compatibility with pigments. And then we also looked at the physical attributes. So we wanted something that was really close in some of those key parameters, such as viscosity, refractive index, and then polarity to a certain extent. And of course, we really looked at the performance. So we really looked at how well the ingredients are going to perform in something like skincare in terms of the aesthetics as well as moisturization benefits, for hair care as conditioners and shine ingredients, and then especially in makeup and makeup removal products. Of course, the most important thing we save for last is sustainability. So we want to make sure that all of our silicone alternatives are biodegradable, naturally derived, and globally compliant. So our first material is dermal IPIS, or Wicanol 131. So we have two different trade names over our time in the industry. They're both the same material, so they are both isopropyl isostearate, which is 87% naturally derived from rapeseed oil, and is a naturally derived and biodegradable alternative to cyclopentasiloxane, or D5. So of course, whenever we talk about a D5 alternative, it has a wide range of uses in hair care, makeup, skincare, as well as makeup removal. So when we compare the physical attributes, we see that viscosity and refractive index, or shine, is going to be very close for dermal IPIS versus D5. But again, dermal IPIS is almost 90% naturally derived. Looking at some of the performance benefits, when we compare dermal IPIS to cyclopentasiloxane in a skincare cream, each was evaluated at 20%. The consumers applied each product one time and evaluated some key parameters. We see that we have a little bit of ways to go in terms of spreadability and absorption, which are some of the really strong benefits of cyclopentasiloxane and really difficult to match. But despite dermal IPIS not being volatile like D5 is, we actually see that the end skin feel with dermal IPIS is less oily, but also leaves the skin feeling more moisturized with comparable soft skin feel and overall preference on the two products. And then we see that the consumers felt their skin was more moisturized. We also saw that with instrumental data. So we evaluated these two products in the skincare creams again, and evaluated at 2 hours and 6 hours the corneometer, which measures skin hydration. And then we also measured transepidermal water loss. So we saw that the formulation with dermal IPIS more significantly improved hydration and reduced transepidermal water loss versus the formulation with cyclopentasiloxane. So we see really strong moisturization benefits with dermal IPIS. It also is going to work really well in sunscreens and makeup products. So we evaluated dermal IPIS versus D5 for dispersions of two materials. We looked at a surface-treated zinc oxide with triethoxycaprylsilane, so one of the more common surface treatments that we see for sunscreens and pigments. And we know that surface treatment is really going to play into how well it's compatible with the material. And then we also looked at an untreated gold pearl. So we evaluated the viscosity of each dispersion. When looking at the 30% zinc oxide dispersion, we see comparable data for D5 and dermal IPIS. And anything below 3000 is a really low viscosity sunscreen dispersion. So we see that both these perform really well. But then when we look at the 30% pearl dispersion, we see that dermal IPIS has a significantly lower dispersion viscosity. So it's going to yield better aesthetics, and it's also going to allow you to add more pigment to your dispersion. So you'll be able to really get much better coverage and much better application when using dermal IPIS in your makeup formulations. And we saw that with the eyeshadows below. So we took those dispersions we talked about in the previous slide. So 10% of the gold pearl with 20%, 25% dermal IPIS or D5 in a silicone elastomer with isododecane. And we see that when applying it to this black substrate, the eyeshadow with dermal IPIS has much better spread and much better coverage. So you're going to get really nice aesthetics and really nice coverage with the dermal IPIS. So after you've applied this makeup, eventually you're going to want to remove it. And we know that cyclopentasiloxane is a really effective makeup remover for long wear makeup. So it's one of the more common materials in biphase makeup removers. So we compared dermal IPIS and cyclopentasiloxane at 30% in a biphase makeup remover to evaluate the removal of waterproof mascara as well as long wear liquid lipstick. We see that cotton pads using the formulation with dermal IPIS has much more mascara on it. So it means we're able to remove much more long wear waterproof mascara with dermal IPIS versus D5 in a biphase makeup remover. And then we see really comparable results for the long wear liquid lipstick for both dermal IPIS and cyclopentasiloxane. Just looking at a few sample formulations with dermal IPIS. So our natural concealer stick uses 40% dermal IPIS. So it's going to give a really nice dispersion of the pigments, really good payoff, but also really dry and clean afterfeel. So especially as a concealer stick, which is usually the first step in your makeup process, having dermal IPS being so lightweight and clean feeling, it makes it very easy to layer foundation on top. And our natural biphase eye makeup remover. And really simple formulation using 30% dermal IPIS. Really effective for waterproof mascara removal compared to cyclopentasiloxane. And then we see another use for cyclopentasiloxane is in argan oil hair treatments. So a lot of times you'll see formulas positioned for as argan oils treatments for hair, which are usually mostly cyclopentasiloxane with a little bit of argan oil added to it. So we see that the combination of dermal IPIS plus argan oil is going to have a really high naturality, but also have really comparable aesthetics in hair products to using cyclopentasiloxane. So our second silicone alternative is bean tree, which you spoke a little bit about in the previous presentation. And it's methyl heptoisostearate, which is EcoCert Cosmos, naturally derived from castor and rapeseed oils, and it's a really effective replacement for 5-centistoke dimethicone. So again, a broad range of uses across basically all the product categories. So it's biodegradable, palm-free, and globally compliant. Physically, it compares very similarly to 5-centistoke dimethicone, especially for refractive index and viscosity. And we see it also compares very favorably for aesthetics. So again, we compared each ingredient at 20% in a skincare cream. Spreadability is pretty close with both materials, while bean tree does absorb quicker and leaves the skin less oily, but also more moisturized. And we see that the consumers did slightly prefer the formulation with bean tree versus the formulation with 5-centistoke dimethicone. And again, we see with instrumental data the moisturization benefits of bean tree. So when compared to at 20% in a skincare cream versus 5-centistoke dimethicone, the bean tree improved skin hydration at both 2 hours and 6 hours, and also reduced the transepidermal water loss. So again, really similar aesthetics with an added skin moisturization benefit as well. Low viscosity silicones, such as 5-centistoke dimethicone, are also really effective at reducing the soapiness of formulations. So a lot of times in skincare creams or either certain liquid foundations, if there's a high level of fatty alcohols in the formula, you can have that very soapy effect where it almost looks like you're applying something like a shave cream to your skin, and it does eventually rub in clean, but can be unappealing sometimes. And silicones do an excellent job at reducing that soapiness. But we also saw that bean tree was comparable to the 5-centistoke dimethicone at reducing the soapiness in a skincare cream with approximately 7% fatty alcohol. So especially if you're looking for more naturally derived formulations, especially naturally derived emulsifiers, they tend to be a little bit more soapy. So bean tree can be really effective at reducing the soapiness and improving the absorption into the skin of your naturally derived skincare products. Also works really well in makeup products. So again, we looked at that the zinc oxide dispersions and the untreated pearl dispersions. So comparable and very low viscosity dispersions for the zinc oxide, which is really going to help with the spreadability and reduce the whitening of your zinc oxide formulations. Whereas we see a much lower viscosity with the bean tree dispersions. So we're really able to maximize the amount of coverage, the amount of color we're going to get in our makeup products when using bean tree. Few sample formulations. So we're bringing back the natural face and hair oil, which we talked about in the previous presentation. Again, 30% bean tree with 2 of our other very lightweight emollients. It's a really versatile oil that could be used for hair, face, or body. Our natural Dermasperse MG cream uses bean tree as our primary emollient. It also uses our synergistic emulsifier blend of Wicanol 535, which is wheat germ glycerides, and Mols 2218, which is a modified stearic acid derivative. So really effective emulsifier for naturally derived materials. And the bean tree really helps with the application and absorption in this formulation when used at 20%. Bean tree is also a really effective pigment dispersant and emollient for makeup. So we see it works really nicely in our natural biomade BB lipstick. So almost 32% bean tree really helps with the dispersion of the pigments and gives you really nice application and payoff. And again, another formulation structured with biomade BB, which is naturally derived and biodegradable high melting point waxy ester. So moving on to dermal LL, which is lauryl lactate, which is 100% naturally derived from corn and mass balanced palm, and is a nice alternative to phenyltrimethicone. So it's RSPO, it's biodegradable, China compliant. It's not currently REACH registered by Alzo, but there are other registrants. So if that is an issue, we can certainly work for REACH registration as well. But again, it's really nice benefits for hair, makeup, and skincare products. So looking at the physical parameters, we see dermal LL and phenyltrimethicone are very comparable. Compared to the other two silicone alternatives we just talked about, phenyltrimethicone has a little bit higher viscosity, also a little bit higher refractive index, so a little bit shinier. So it works really nicely as a leave-on or rinse-off hair conditioner, as well as lip applications. Really nice aesthetics in skincare as well. So we see when we evaluate 20% skincare creams of dermal LL versus the phenyltrimethicone, you see that the red and blue lines are basically right on top of each other. So we see really comparable aesthetics between the two. In makeup, again, we see that really low viscosity dispersion using the dermal LL. So it's really going to improve the application and payoff of your makeup products. And we see that very clearly with our dermal LL lipstick. So we evaluated a 10% Red Lake 7 pigment with 10% mica and either 40% of dermal LL or phenyltrimethicone. And we applied a single stroke of the lipstick to the back of the hand. And we see that the formulation with dermal LL had much better application, much better payoff, as well as higher shine and better coverage. So dermal LL is really effective in makeup products, especially for lip. And here's just that sample formulation. So again, 40% dermal LL, biomade BB again, and then 20% of a pigment and mica load. So we have a few other materials that we'll also talk about. A little less performance data, more of just to highlight these materials. So these are some alternatives to some of the medium and high viscosity silicones, such as dermal 1818, which is isosteryl isosterate, and is a really nice alternative to 50% stoked dimethicone. So again, hair, makeup, and skin, a wide range of uses. The physical properties compare really nicely to the 50% stoked dimethicone, especially viscosity, refractive index. Really nice additive for hair products as well as lip products. And also really interesting material if you're also looking to replace any of your natural oils. So it's got a really comparable viscosity and feel to some of the natural oils too. So if you're looking for to reduce something like oxidative stability or improve color in your formulations and want to take out any natural oils, now dermal 1818 is 100% naturally derived and is a nice natural oil alternative as well. Quickenol 171 is ethyl hexyl hydroxysterate, which is naturally derived from castor oil and is an alternative to 100% stoked dimethicone. So whenever we talk about castor oil derivatives, we know it's going to have really nice compatibility with makeup products, really good compatibility with pigments. This is a really nice additive for makeup and lip applications, and also has some really unique properties in cleansing products. We've seen some really interesting data that it improves the amount of skin surface lipids left on the skin after cleansing with harsh materials such as sulfates or soap-based cleansers, and it also outperforms several natural oils in refatting the skin. It really improves the skin feel and appearance when used in rinse-off cleansing products. And again, compares really comparably to 100 sandstone dimethicone in some of those physical parameters. And then finally, we have our dermal DIS, which is polyglycerol 2-diisostearate, which is an alternative to 500 sandstone dimethicone. So a little bit more of the heavier viscous dimethicone. It's 100% naturally derived from rapeseed oil and palm. And again, being a little bit more viscous, a little bit more shiny, really nice benefits for skincare, lip applications, as well as a really nice conditioner for hair care. And we see really comparable results for the physical parameters. If you remember from our previous presentation, this is our primary emollient in our melting makeup remover balm. So it's going to have really nice compatibility with makeup and pigments, and also has a really nice, soft and conditioning and skin feel. It's also a nice additive for either rinse off or leave on hair products. Now you can use it easily in a rinse off conditioner. Also works nicely in leave on skincare, hair care products to provide some long lasting shine and conditioning, and help with the application and spread into the hair for some styling products as well. So these are 6 of our naturally derived alternatives geared specifically towards silicone alternatives. Of course, we offer a wide range of naturally derived emollients. So if you're ever looking for a naturally derived material for your formulation, just looking at this list, I'm sure we have something that could fit nicely into your formulations. So we've definitely done a lot of work the last few months on silicone alternatives, but we certainly have a long way to go. So we have a lot of future work that we'd like to work on, specifically looking at more performance data surrounding hair conditioning and combability, as well as effects on attributes like frizz control or styling for hair products. We want to definitely do a lot more work in makeup products, not only looking at pigment dispersions, but also looking at the application and wear properties in makeup, as well as doing additional work on skin consumer perception for the 3, medium, and high viscosity silicone alternatives, and then completing our hydration and tool testing. So gracias. And then again, this is just a summary of the 6 sustainable silicone alternatives that we discussed today.
Thank you, Andrew. And we will start with the questions. Si alguien tiene alguna pregunta, por favor, puede irlo escribiendo en el chat. And the first question is, what will be the percentage of dermal IPIS versus the cyclos D5 in the formulas? What would be the difference, or is the percentage similar?
So when we tested them at the same levels, and we saw really comparable results when replacing D5 with dermal IPIS 1-to-1. I mean, certainly it's very formula dependent, but we did see in the makeup remover, the skincare products, and the makeup products that using the same level of dermal IPIS and D5 yielded really similar results.
Ok, thank you. ¿Tenemos alguna otra pregunta? Si tienen alguna duda también más adelante se pueden comunicar con su ejecutivo Sintokim y ya nosotros la canalizamos con Alzo para revisarlo. Okay, we have another question. Does some of these ingredients help with thermal protection in a living product? I think it's about hair.
Yep. Yeah, so I imagine if you're adding the formulation before blow drying or before straightening iron. That's a good question. We don't have any data on that, but that is definitely something that we have been planning to look into. Because it's not volatile and does have a pretty high smoke point, we do expect to have good thermal protection, but we definitely still need to do that test.
Thank you, Andrew. ¿Alguna otra pregunta? Ok, si no hay preguntas adicionales, les agradecemos mucho habernos acompañado en esta presentación. Thank you, Andrew, for joining us today with this information. Por favor, pónganse en contacto con su ejecutivo Sintoquín para el tema de las muestras y el tema de la información. Y le agradecemos mucho a Alzo habernos apoyado con esta presentación. Thank you to all the Alzo team that joined us today. Y les pedimos que, bueno, sigan en contacto con nosotros para nuestros siguientes webinars. Que tengan un excelente día. Thank you, Andrew. Have a great day.
You too. Gracias, everybody. Take care.